Hello class, and welcome to the first step on your term project. That is going 3 levels deep. I'm Santo, and we got Matt here with us.
Hello.
And today we are going to explore the Paldea region because both of us have played through Pokémon Scarlet and Violet.
Yep. Yes, we have.
And that's pretty much what we're going to talk about for this episode. So let's dive right in.
Yeah. I feel like we should probably start by addressing the Dawn fan in the room.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Like, they introduced a lot of new bug types this generation, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I think we need to get this out of the way first because, it's what the internet has been abuzz about is how that's just the state this game launched in.
Yeah, it's launched in a horrible state for a game that is part of the franchise it's the highest grossing franchise in the world.
Yeah, and so it launching in the state is downright embarrassing. I don't know how really passionate you are about how bad it is, but I'm actually going to be an apologist about it because I put a very large amount of time in the game and I haven't encountered any bugs that I would say have negatively impacted my experience. Yeah,
I'd say the same. Nothing. I didn't encounter any crashes or anything. Nothing that diminished my enjoyment of the game.
Yeah, I think a lot of the problems with this game, and part of the reason why I think that it's been pounced upon so much, is that they're extremely superficial problems. They're problems that show very poorly. I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but one of the top classes of bug severity when I was working at EA was T-posing. Because they just didn't want a bunch of videos on the internet of a bunch of, soccer players hovering around T-posing around in cutscenes and stuff like that.
So I'd love to see that.
Yeah, that was on the severity of crashes and save corruption. That's how much they cared about it. So, don't get me wrong, the game performs like garbage.
Oh yeah.
The frame rate is very inconsistent.
There's some areas where it even slows down so much. It feels like you're navigating through molasses.
Yeah.
And I've seen some comparisons where people were streaming it for a certain amount of time, and then they go to look at the in-game timer of how long they've played, and yeah, lag's taking some of the time off of the in-game timer.
Wow, really? Oh
yeah.
My God. So there's a lot of people have been saying, trying to figure out why exactly this happened. And the biggest culprit is something that you've brought up before, is how the deadline's set in stone.
They're on a 3-year cycle.
Yeah, they have to put
it's
something
not
out.
It's not like a Call of Duty yearly cycle where you have multiple teams working on different Call of Duties. But you've got one small team, because I think Game Freak is about, I want to say around 100, somewhere 120 to 160 employees, and that's across 2 teams.
Mm-hmm. At a time like this, it's just a 3-year schedule with a little over 100 people. That's, considered a tight deadline with a small team. Now, right before we started talking on the podcast, I have a few games laid out here. And Matt, I want you to pick up a Legend of Dragoon that I got there.
I am holding it in my right hand.
Turn it around and read the first bullet point.
3 years in the making with a development team of over 100 members.
It's so funny that how a PS1 game has that on the back of the box as look at how much work we did on this game. It's so big. Because that's just how game development has changed.
Yeah.
And that was a complete coincidence when I pulled that out.
Games are bigger now.
That. Yeah, games are obviously bigger, and I always thought that as time goes on, tools are supposed to get better and for people to, do more complicated things in less time. And I think that just feels like that hasn't quite happened as much as I'd hoped, just because of stuff like this, where teams need to be much, much bigger.
Yeah.
And they need to spend a lot more time to iron out these games that have the luxury of being able to be patched. PS1 games don't. That shit's when that goes gold, that's the game discs get pressed.
Yeah,
That's how people are getting the game.
It wasn't until the 360 PS3 era where you started being able to get updates for games. Or
maybe the Saturn could.
Maybe
because there was like Sega Channel or whatever. They were doing their whole like weird, like Sega internet thing.
Well, and you did have like stuff like Phantasy Star Online, which I would assume got updates.
Yeah, well, that was the Dreamcast, so that was I considered like Dreamcast to be in the contemporary with the PS2 and the Xbox.
Yeah.
So,
but
even though it came out earlier, and yeah.
But at least that's when you could put out a game. 360 PS3 is when you could put out a game that wasn't quite finished and fix it afterwards.
Yeah, fake it till you make it.
You didn't really... I don't recall seeing too much like that at that time, though, but I feel like the problem's just gotten worse as time's gone on.
Well, I can list off a ton of different bugs on like all the like earlier Final Fantasy games. Like old games had bugs and glitches and stuff like that. And there's old games that don't perform well. Go play the original. Yeah. Go play some of the early Mega Man games on the NES.
Well, and even like going back, some games with those bugs like that, they'd include them in the instruction booklet as, oh, this is an Easter egg.
Yeah, like this is meant to happen. It's like, oh crap, you found this out after you pressed the disc. So yeah, it's unfortunate how things have changed, and I think that like I've said this before in like the open world discussion or whatever, but like games need to cut their scope back and release smaller polished things. Scarlet
and Violet is very ambitious for the size of their team and the time constraints they were on.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Like again, I don't think the issues that are facing are as bad as people are saying. Like I'm surprised it came together as well as it did, because you also have to remember like, if they're on a 3-year cycle, and I don't know exactly like when they started production on this, if it was like before Sword and Shield came out or like right when it came out.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but I think the second team might have actually done the DLC for Sword and Shield.
Yeah,
which is also the team that did Legends Arceus.
Yeah, because Game Freak has like other people working on like the bunch of side games and whatever, but. You have to remember, like, okay, well, what happened late 2019? The pandemic happened. This game was entirely a pandemic-developed game as well. And so, like, they had to deal with that entire transition of work, and, some places can do that right, some places can't.
And unlike with other things, with Pokemon, you just don't see a delay.
Yeah, you
can't. They won't delay it, because the Pokemon company has so many other things relying on the game coming out. Anime, merchandise, trading card games. Because the games aren't even the biggest seller for their revenue. It's all the merchandise.
Yeah. So like, how are people going to get a Flamigo in real life if they're not synced up that right?
How am I going to get a Tinkaton plush?
Oh, that'd be pretty sweet. I don't have much else here to talk about in terms of like the performance or the bugs or anything like that. I think that it is what it is.
It needed more time in the oven, which it didn't get.
I have zero expectation that it'll be fixed either, though. Is the other thing.
Yeah, they did put out a patch the other day, but I didn't see any performance improvement that I could tell.
Yeah, maybe there's stability updates for crash and stuff like that. That I would expect, but
I think they removed a duplication bug.
Oh, nice. Yeah, see, they can do that now, but original cartridges, red and blue.
Missing duplicating rare candies, master balls.
Yeah, doing some weird stuff where you use growl on a Shellder, or I forget if it was Growl or Leer or something like that on a Shellder 6 times in Misty's gym, and then do a weird Abra warp, and then you get a Mew legitimately.
Oh yeah,
this is like a bunch of like weird stuff that happens when you have extremely limited cartridge space and have to reuse stuff.
Which is partly why Gen 2 still remains my favorite, just because of the pure improvement in quality from Gen 1 to Gen 2.
There's a lot of quality of life that they did between those that was great. That game had 2 regions.
Yep. Never going to see that again.
Nope. If they can't even get 1 region right this time. All right, well, I mean, let's talk about the region, because this is a true open world game.
Yep.
Now, it surprised me how much I liked it.
Because you're very adverse to open world.
A lot of the time, because I feel like it's just like sometimes just a lot of collectathon kind of stuff, where it's just like, okay, here's a million different icons for you to go and do this, do this, do this. Here's
a base to go take over. Here's a place to synchronize to uncover this part of the map.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, one of the first things you should do is go to these watchtowers that you can like see a bunch of icons on the map. It's like, I'd rather just go to those places and find those icons there. Like, and one other thing is that I think a lot of open world games just don't have the good enough movement in them to make traversing the open world fun, as well as just the prevalence of fast travel and how that's changed how open world games are structured.
Yeah.
Like, it's a nice thing to have, but if you build this big open world, when I played GTA, there's no fast travel in there. If I have to get from one end of the state to the other, I drive there and fun shit would happen along the way.
Yeah. Well, and another open world game that is really fun to traverse the entire map is Spider-Man for the PS4.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the web swinging is just so great. They based it very much off of the Spider-Man 2 web swing, and there's even a video out there of them sitting down the guy who designed the web swinging for that game to play Spider-Man PS4, and he was loving it. But that's a game where just traversal is really fun through the open world.
And the traversal in Scarlet and Violet is a bit awkward.
It can be a little jank.
Yeah, because like you unlock more, traversal things throughout, and it felt a little bit like I didn't really explore. I explored the map in a bit of a weird way, but part of the map it felt like, okay, you kind of would need to unlock traversal stuff to get further on. But I did find this one section where I was able to jump across a river. Where like if you tried to do it with like cliffs on both sides, you wouldn't be able to do it. But there was like a little dip with a
so you could get
beach
out of the water if you were in there. If you had the swimming upgrade.
Well, I didn't have the swimming upgrade yet, but I was just able to just clear it.
But yeah, they had that little incline, so like if you did have the swimming upgrade, you could get out of the water easily. Yes, but because of that, you can take advantage of it and just jump right over.
Yeah, and there was a barricade that I wasn't able to go along the pathway until I took out a Team Star base, which Team Star is the quote-unquote evil organization. They're not even evil organizations anymore. No. It's the organization of this game, the team of this game.
I did actually really like this team in the end, but they're not an evil organization like
no, they're just misunderstood.
Pokemon. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you can easily navigate around those barricades they have set up.
Yeah, but like it led to me like kind of doing. I did some stuff out of order, and that's something that, I mean, I don't necessarily like being like carted around the world on a leash, like I feel like in some open world games. But I do think that there should have probably been recommended levels for some of the stuff.
Yeah, and actually, what I think would have been a great idea is if, as you tackle the objectives you have around the map, it makes the next one harder.
Yeah, like
make everything scale up. Yeah. So that way you can truly tackle things in any order, because there's clearly an actual order they want you to tackle everything in because of the way the levels are.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, the natural way they want you to do that doesn't feel natural, because like even like looking at the map, the way I thought the order was going to be wasn't the order that was. Like the Titan Pokemon in the desert, like it's 50, maybe not 50, maybe like 12 levels higher than like the gym that's very close by.
Yeah.
So that kind of threw me for a little bit. And like the gyms in general, like the ice gym is technically supposed to be the last gym based on levels, but it's like, closer to your like hub starting area than the Ghost Gym. The Ghost Gym is like a little bit north of that.
Yeah.
But that one you're supposed to tackle, earlier.
Like, odds are, depending on which way you come at from, you're probably going to encounter the Ice Gym first. I encountered the Ice Gym first.
Yeah, like I did that before the Ghost or the Psychic Gym. The Psychic Gym's kind of off to the side, and you have to go through a cave where it says "Beware of strong Pokemon." So it kind of like tells you, "Hey, take a look at some of the levels here and come back later." I will say this was the only game that I ever actually used Pokédolls to escape encounters. Because I got to a counter like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to be here."
Yeah, I used a number of them myself.
Like, okay, this is actually useful. Because
which actually, that's another thing. The open world, there's so many like respawning pickups.
Yeah.
That I didn't buy anything from Pokemart until like end game when I'm trying to catch a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I tend to overstock up on Pokeballs. I did get into a one point though where I just ran out of regular Pokeballs trying to catch a Pokemon that I wasn't supposed to be catching at the time.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't got enough gym badges yet.
I think it did also help for me that because I got the double pack and split with my brother, it came with 2 codes for 100 Pokeballs.
Oh,
so.
Well, okay. All right. Yeah, I wonder if that helped.
But like, I haven't bought any Great Balls, Ultra Balls, Potions, Revives. I pretty much made it through just with what I found on the ground out there.
Yeah. I mean, I've spent a lot of in-game money buying some of the items that were near impossible to get in the other games where you had to like grind the battle tower for. Like, they actually did they made it so much easier to raise a Pokemon for like competitive play in this game.
Yeah.
Because there's items that let you change Pokemon nature, which those are rare in the other games.
But once you get a certain amount through, you can actually just start buying them.
Yeah, and they're, reasonably expensive. But again, you pick up so much stuff on the ground. Like,
yeah.
I didn't have money troubles past the start. And like, there's the power braces and whatever that speed up effort value training. And those are available from the very start. So that's the first thing I did with my money was I bought a couple of those. And just like, all right, I'm slapping this on my starter. He seems like he's like an attack-focused guy. So, like, and also, they introduced bottle caps and Sword and Shield, I believe. But this one, you can just buy them so you can boost your IVs to maximum, like, extremely easily. There's the Terrastalize mechanic, where your Pokemon turn into a different type. Yeah, and you can change that. Which requires a ton of grinding to do, but you can change it.
Yeah, which I didn't utilize it too much through my playthrough, but I can see that being a real game changer in competitive play.
Yeah, I mean, I just have like a spiteful aversion to like the gimmick that they introduce every Pokemon generation for not a great reason. So I didn't use it all that much outside of Terra Raids where it's kind of required.
Yeah. And I think the game itself only actually utilized it well once. And that was the Electric Gym.
There's a couple. I think the Ghost Gym was good because the person used Toxtricity as their final.
Right, yeah.
And Toxtricity knows Boom Burst, which is an extremely powerful normal type move that gets buffed up by Toxtricity's ability. But it hits everything on the field, and that was a double battle gym. So having it be that in the Ghost Gym was actually really smart. Yeah,
okay, yeah, that is... Yeah, I didn't...
You might not have encountered that. Yeah. Like, you might have just, like, blown through it too fast.
Yeah, but that is actually a good use of it.
Yeah.
But that and the Electric Gym are pretty much the only two actual good uses of it.
Yeah. It was kind of interesting that each gym and Elite Four, like, their last Pokemon, like, they terrestrialize, like, from just whatever that Pokemon was into the type that they specialize in. I thought that was actually really interesting. A lot of them, like, weren't great, like, powerful uses. I mean, the game's not that hard. But
it really isn't.
Whatever. Like, it's a modern Pokemon game. I'm not expecting them to be.
Yeah.
But the thing about terrestrializing competitive is that, okay, so because it's so much easier to raise competitive Pokemon, you don't have to spend hours trying to, min-max to get the most optimized Pokemon. I'm like, okay, I maybe I'll like get into a competitive Pokemon a little bit more this gen. And I looked up and I'm like, oh right, this is why I don't want to get into competitive Pokemon, because the community. I'm not gonna say the community is bad, but they take it in a serious level that I don't want to get into.
Yeah.
And also, like, coming from, like, Magic the Gathering is the competitive game that I spent the most time and effort into. And so the community on that and how reactions to new cards being released in bans, especially, is a certain way. So I expect, like, when stuff's released, there's some amount of time passed before, people are... Wizards of the Coast is actually going to ban things. And it's Wizards of the Coast, the people that make the game that are in charge of banning it for competitive play. Not like, a lot of like Pokemon Showdown or whatever, like it's just like Smogon or whatever that deals with bannings and stuff like that. But like they like quick banned a few things, like almost immediately, like here's a couple things that are banned, here's some stuff that's on our watch list. And a lot of people, like in forums or whatever, say like, oh yeah, this needs to be banned, this needs to be banned, this needs to be banned. And a lot of people don't want terrestrialization. They want to ban that whole cloth because they it's difficult to predict, basically.
And that's why I think it would be so interesting, which is why I think it'll be more interesting for the officially run tournaments.
Yeah, like there's no chance in hell they're banning it for the official tournaments.
No.
But like, again, like, playing Magic, like what my opponent's playing, I don't know what they're playing beforehand. Except at like the at the Pro Tour, they made everybody carry around their deck list and you swap them for a minute before you play, which I thought actually was dumb. I didn't like that at all because I'm the kind of person who builds decks and brings things competitively that are a bit off the wall, like things that I like to play.
You have fun with it. You don't go with like...
I'll go with meta decks.
Yeah.
So part of my advantage is surprise and stuff like that. So having my opponent be able to see exactly what I'm on and like kind of figure out my game plan that way, I think it takes something out of it. Like but whatever. That's
that first game should be a surprise.
Exactly. And for like Pokemon, I think like it's gotten to the point where a lot of stuff's established, and so people want to be able to see like what they're up against. Like I think wasn't it in Let's Go where when you battled online you actually saw all the Pokemon that were on the opponent's team?
It might have been.
Yeah, and then so like that's a bit odd. I didn't like that much. And like, people should be able to like metagame and surprise people with stuff. And I think that terrestrialization, being able to swap around types and play mind games with that kind of stuff, I think is really cool. For example, my like premier Pokemon that I want to like, that I caught and saw, I'm like, oh, this is actually like a really cool strat that I want to use. I caught a Dratini that was electric terrestrial type. And it also had the ability, the hidden ability, which on Dratini and Dragonair it's not that, it's Marvel scale, so your defense is raised when you have a status condition, not the whatever. But Dragonite has a multi-scale, which reduces the first hit that he takes by 50%. So it's kind of broken because you can get off a Dragon Dance extremely easily that way. So my like strat I have in my head, have Dragonite out, do a Dragon Dance, maybe get hit, probably not die unless it's an ice move, and I can like try and think, okay, does this enemy Pokemon have an ice move or whatever? And so I take that first hit not terrestrialized, and then I terrestrialize after they've either switched to a Pokemon that has an ice move or something like that, or will use a rock move or something that will like knock me all the way out. And so like I switch, it's like, haha, I'm electric now. Like, oh, I'm only weak to ground and nobody's going to use a ground attack on a dragon because it's flying. So that's like a kind of an interesting tactic that probably won't work because entry hazards are a thing. Yeah. I'd have to use it as my leadoff Pokemon.
Another one that I want to do that's pretty interesting is I want to get my hands on a normal Gardevoir.
Oh yeah?
Because being fairy and psychic...
nobody's using a fighting attack.
Yeah, no one's using a fighting attack against Gardevoir there. No one's throwing in a fighting type. Because Gardevoir will just destroy it, and fighting's the only thing it'll be weak to, and immune to Ghost.
Yeah, like so, like the defensive aspects of it are really interesting. I saw one argument that like the offensive aspects of it, when it's the same terrestrial type and basically being like double stab instead of 1.5, that might get a lot of hand, and I could see that potentially being a bit powerful. But again, you can only do it with one Pokemon.
Yeah.
It does stick after you switch out, which kind of is annoying. But
I'm more interested in seeing the different type uses.
Yeah, for defensive or adding another stab, I don't think that's that bad.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I was grinding water shards because I have an Azumarill. I know it's actually pronounced Azumarill, but I refuse to pronounce it like that because what's its pre-evolve form?
Marill.
Yeah, exactly. So it's Azumarill. It's not a regular Marill, isn't like Merle or whatever. But because it started off as an Azurill, it had a normal Terrestrial type, which I mean, sure, like defensively, that's kind of cool for the fact that nobody's used a fighting type move against a fairy type. But I'm like, no, I want it to be water type because I want to use Belly Drum Aqua Jet because that's just stupid.
Yeah,
that's a really like BS way to try and sweep somebody.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, the Electric Gym was one of the good uses of it in the game, which was a Pokemon with Levitate becoming electric.
Yeah, so pulling the no weakness card, which is like really smart usage of it. Yeah, speaking of new Pokemon, like every gen, I think some hits, some misses.
I think a lot of it really comes down to personal taste.
Yeah, I wasn't like the most enthused with some stuff. I'm kind of annoyed that they padded the Pokedex with the Paradox forms.
Yeah.
That's just a me thing, but I also didn't really like Mega Evolutions all that much as the way to pad out X and Y's Pokedex. So, like, I'd prefer all new designs or more
variants.
Like, yeah, like those are basically like the regional variants. It's like, other than that, there's just, Paldean Wooper and Paldean Tauros.
Yeah.
That was it.
And, right? Like maybe some new evolutions added to old lines as well, but that's about it.
Oh, one other thing about the competitive stuff is that so I caught a shiny Mankey, and I was like, oh snap, caught the green monkey, and I was like, oh, this is kind of awesome. Like Primate, kind of sucks, but there's a new evolution, Annihilate. So I'm like, okay, sweet, I can use that and on my team, and its stats look pretty good. It's got a really good typing actually, because I think that nothing in the game resists both fighting and ghost, even dual types. I tried to do the math in my head and I couldn't think of one.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But like they don't have any crossover there, so it's like unresisted stab. That's pretty sick. Defensively, it's not the best typing, but
yeah. And actually, speaking of Annihilate, that's actually another thing this game did. Is it introduced a lot of it introduced a good chunk of the unused typings.
Yeah,
so far.
It felt like it was just like, okay, here's the ones that we haven't used yet. Let's take care of some of these.
Yeah.
But some people are calling for Annihilate to be banned.
Oh, really?
His Rage Fist move is kind of weird on how it works, because like every time he gets hit, the power gets boosted of it. But it's not really like the old, Rage move in Pokemon where you have to use it first, and then it gives you attack stat boosts. This is just like passive boost that doesn't have anything to do with your attack stat. It's only for that specific move. And it stays even if you switch out or faint the Pokemon.
Okay, yeah, that I can see. Why? Like, if it's fainted or switched out, it should probably reset.
Yeah. Which, fainting doesn't matter in competitive, except for the fact that they introduced a revival move in this game. Yeah. Which people are saying that that'll probably get banned as soon as it's properly programmed into Pokemon Showdown. So I'm like, all right, sure, that's kind of fair. But so the weird thing is people are calling for this to be banned, but not the move, the Pokemon. So that's another thing that the people that are running the competitive stuff at Smogon or whatever feel, is that they ban Pokemon, they don't ban moves if a specific move is a problem. Even if it's a signature move, they'd much rather ban the Pokemon, and the reasoning for it doesn't make sense to me.
So what you're saying is Rage Fist Smurgle.
Smurgle's not in the game, but Primate can learn Rage Fist. So if they ban Annihilate and Primate is still a problem with lower stats, which it might not. It probably won't be.
I mean, give it an Eviolite, that raises its defensive stats, since it's not fully evolved anymore.
Yeah, but so what? I'd rather they just ban the move, because nobody's going to be using Primate anyways, who cares?
Yeah.
Whereas, you might be banning a Pokemon that, again, they said has an unresisted stab combination, like a unique typing. A fairly varied move pool, if I remember correctly. And, decent stats. Like, there's no reason for you to ban the Pokemon if the move's the problem. There's also another move called Shed Tail, which Cyclizar and Orthworm have, which it makes a substitute, but instead of it being a quarter health, it's half health, and then the Pokemon switches out.
Oh.
It's broken as hell.
Okay,
Like,
yeah.
it's obviously broken as hell.
So it's U-turn combined with substitute.
Combined with that beefier substitute.
Yeah.
So you can... So some people are, like... It was, like, immediately, like, banning competitive, kind of, because, like, if you do that on Shedinja, that's a problem. If you gave Shedinja a different Terrestrial type, because his ability would still prevent it from being hit. So it's like, oh boy. And so there's like some weird stuff you can do with this. So it's like, okay, that's, probably gonna get banned extremely fast. But like, yeah, and some of the Pokemon they banned didn't make any sense. Like they banned Palafin because its ability is bullshit. It becomes too strong.
Yeah, it really does become too strong.
And it has like a extra power unique priority move and a unique U-turn move too to make the setup like completely brainless. But they also banned Houndstone. Really? Because of its unique move, where it gets more powerful for each ally you have that's fainted. So if you use it as the last Pokemon, it becomes this like 300 base power stab nuke. And it's just like, and Houndstone has I think it has Sand Rush, so it gets faster in Sandstorm. But like, again, that's a case where just ban the move. It's a unique move that's only for that Pokemon. Like, come on.
So have they banned King Gambit as well?
No.
Because of its ability?
They haven't. I don't exactly know how its ability even works, how much of a power boost it gets.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Because
it's not... I don't think it's reflected in like the standard like attack boost kind of stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't show anything. It's just a message saying its stats got boosted. It doesn't seem to say too much. Yeah, and I don't think King Gambit has a way to boost its speed as well, which is like, again, that's the problem. Yeah, like Sand Rush or like throw a Choice Band on it. If you don't have a normal type Pokemon, that's GG. So, yeah, like I don't know. I'm probably not going to get into the competitive stuff. It's like super interesting from a theory and team building standpoint to me, but there's no reason for me to get into a community that takes it so seriously and I think runs it kind of weirdly. All right, so actually, speaking of Pokemon, we got on this a little bit, but I don't think this is like my favorite set of like new Pokemon. There are some that I did like. Yeah, there's designs I do like, but overall, I think this might be the weakest gen for me personally.
Yeah, it's either this or X and Y, but X and Y's Pokedex was so small that they just like got screwed that way.
Yeah.
But there were there are some that are stupid. Like everybody's made the Flamingo jokes, whereas just a Flamingo.
It's just a Flamingo.
Like they were able to get away with that in Gen 1 with Seal because it was Gen 1.
Yeah.
Like now it's just like, okay, you're running out of ideas, mate.
And at first I didn't really care for any of the starters' final evolutions. Now the only one I don't really care for is the water one.
And that's the one I picked. That was a rude awakening. I did not expect to see duck ass wiggling in my face for the last half of that game. And the weird thing is, like, I kind of like the design a little bit. Like, it's Quaquaville, I think is its name. Its run animation is hilarious when it's out because it's just running around with its arms up, just like like it's kind of funny to me, and like, but yeah. The fire starter, I think, like that was really solid final evolution in my opinion. The grass one kind of hits the same like Delphox tier with me, where it's just like kind of middling, like kind of whatever.
Yeah, it's the one I went with. It did grow on me.
Yeah, I think in terms of like Pokemon I want to use on my team, that would probably be the most. Grass Dark, it's
its signature move's pretty good too. It always crits.
Yeah, so I think it's 70 power normally, so it's like a 105 power stab.
So it's a good move
that
gets
through defense boosts.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Really cool. But I mean, the other two have really good unique moves too, where Quaquaville is an 80 power stab move that raises its speed a stage. So you can just start trying to sweep, and I'm pretty sure you can learn Swords Dance too. So if you can really set up, like, you can sweep with it, but it might be kind of tough. But if you chuck a shed tail substitute in front of that, it's easy peasy. You don't have to do all the work.
I think the kind of like how Bulbasaur was your best starter you could go with in Gen 1, just because it had such an advantage against a lot of especially the beginning gyms. I think the fire starter has the most advantages.
Well, I mean, the first 2 gyms you're supposed to go into are bug and grass.
Yeah,
So-
but even past that, it has some pretty good advantages.
Yeah, okay, so fire is a much better type than I gave it credit for. I think I was, like, poisoned by the fact that it's weak to rock, so I'm always like, any type that's weak to stealth rock sucks. Again, just poisoned by, like, reading competitive stuff. But I kind of wanted to save this for, like, some kind of trivia question for, like, doing a trivia thing, but that's never going to happen, probably. But fire actually has the second most resistances of any type, which you wouldn't think. It has 6 resistances. So it's resistant to fire, obviously, grass, bug, ice, steel, and fairy. Fairy put it over the edge.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So, like, the next one has 5, I think. But, like, obviously steel has the most, but then it's fire, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah. I did definitely have a fire type on my team here because I had to use the Edgelord Ceruledge.
Yeah.
Who I thought for sure was going to be my favorite Pokemon this generation. No, turned out to be Tinkaton.
Tinkaton's maybe, like, top 3 for me. Like, I love that thing. I'm like, I didn't know. Again, I went into this no spoilers, so I caught a Tinkatank, and I was just like, oh, this is a little, like, pink guy with a little, like, rod or whatever. And it says, oh, the blacksmithing Pokemon. That's kind of cool. And I saw its typing, and Fairy Steel is an insanely good typing. It's so busted. So, like, Tinkaton was such a, like, rock for my team, where if things were going wrong, I could send it out and kind of just, like, even things out a bit.
Yep.
And its signature move is crazy.
160 base power steel move, but you can only use it every other turn. And I started doing what you told me you were doing, is just protect on those off turns.
Yeah, it's just like, all right, completely crush a Pokemon to the ground, and they switch out their next one, so like, protect. Oh, let's do it again. That doesn't always like work for. It's still really good because Tinkaton has like decent speed. Its attack stat isn't the best. It's not. It's 160 power stab. Like that's 240 power base move. That's like crazy. Even if Steel's not the best offensive type, like didn't matter. Just delete people.
Also, the fact that it's just like a little gremlin that causes problems on purpose.
Yeah,
I love it. The Pokedex entries, it's beef with Corviknight for just no reason. I love it.
Get off my lawn! Yeah. Like, that's something that, like, I didn't really think about until it was brought up in Sword and Shield with the people talking about, like, the kind of forest and the fairy gym right after that. Talking about how, like, yeah, fairy Pokemon are just dicks. They just, like, prank people and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, you know what? That's actually true. Like, some of them get the pranks. They get the prankster ability more than like dark types or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like, okay, that's actually kind of an interesting bit of lore to like kind of flavor to build the type around. It makes it feel less of a just like we made this to balance out the type chart.
Yeah, just let's just slap it on a bunch of pre-existing Pokemon.
Yeah. But yeah, my other 2 favorite Pokemon, Clodsire is probably second. I just want a pool floaty of Clodsire. Like
that would be great.
Yeah, like it's one of the Pokemon that I'll get into this now. So they textured a lot of the Pokemon in this game that they didn't really do a lot of texture work previously. It was mostly like, fairly flat shaders.
Yeah.
But in this one they added like some in my opinion, really bad looking fur textures on some of the Pokemon.
I wasn't a fan of it at first, but it did grow on me for some Pokemon, like how reflective Magnemites and Magneton are.
I do not like how reflective.
You don't.
They're too reflective. Like somebody found the specular highlight button on their render pipeline and just like turned that to max, and it's just like it's too much because like I'm like, oh god. What does a shiny look like?
It's brown.
Yeah, it's like, but if it's also that,
which I did actually find a shiny Magnemite.
Oh, nice.
But I was standing at a distance and I was looking at it, squinting my eyes. I was like, is that shiny? I can't tell.
Like that was my worry. Cause, like it's so reflective. Like it was difficult for me. Like process that it was a Magnemite at first. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Oh, it's a Magnemite. Oh, okay. But like some of the textures do look good, like Clodsires, because it just does look like a pool floaty.
Yeah.
It's just kind of it's just like,
Just needs a couple little handles added to it to hold on to.
It's just like flat and reflective. I'm like, oh, that was pretty good. And like, one other one is like Dreadnaught's shell, like kind of looks like a wet rock, and that actually looked pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the fur ones, like, I think Azumarill looks kind of dumb. Weasel's the worst looking one to me.
I didn't get a close look at Weasel.
It just didn't click with me. Because, like, again, like, seeing all these Pokemon for so long, like, you see them in the anime and stuff, then they're, flat colors. You see them most of the game as flat shaders. It's like, well, why try to make them more realistic looking? Did you swallow the Detective Pikachu pill or something?
I mean, I did go see Detective Pikachu. I actually did like the seeing them. I liked it.
As soon as I saw Mr. Mime, I was like, no, I am not down with this. Absolutely not.
I was.
My favorite Pokemon, though, is Citadel. Oh, Citadel is so cute. It's just this little, like, round thing and just bopping around, super happy. Like, I just want to take it sledding and roll it down a hill. Like, oh my god. And it's an ice type, of course.
Yeah, you love ice.
You gotta love it for that. Speaking a little bit more about the open world, actually, no, let's go into this little tangent. I don't like how the Pokemon are sized in this game.
There's some stuff that's smaller than you'd think it is, and then they go really realistic on some things, and you don't see it, and then you ride into it.
Yeah, like, I mean, part of this is just because I played Sword and Shield for the first time so recently, but like, the smaller Pokemon, like a Rookidee or whatever, it's like, it's, of a size that it running around the overworld, you can see it through the grass or whatever, but like, you're riding around on this friggin' like, big-ass dragon Pokemon through most of the game, and I'm just like running into those and Flabébés all the time.
I ran into so many of the cricket. The new little grasshopper Pokemon.
Yeah. And it doesn't make all that much sense because, like, okay, well, if you're gonna make these like tiny Pokemon so realistic looking, why didn't you do the same thing for the larger Pokemon and make them real big?
Where is my to-scale Wailord?
So,
actually, I know where my to-scale Wailord is. It's in the first DLC of Sword and Shield. It's just there in the ocean.
Okay, so the Dondozo, the big Pokemon that eats that little sushi fish.
Yes.
The one of the Titan Pokemon. So that thing's supposed to be 35 feet long. It's supposed to be one of the largest Pokemon yet. But again, it's like, much smaller than that, obviously. Yeah. So they scaled some Pokemon to make it, make more sense in the open world for like traversal and stuff like that. You don't want to be like having those things gigantic in that lake that they are in. But then they made a bunch of tiny Pokemon that you run into accidentally all the time and are like a huge pain in the ass. Like, imagine trying to find a shiny of that cricket.
Yeah.
How would you do it? Like, you just kind of try to encounter them basically, or just try and breed them. F it.
I mean,
or again, like a shiny Flabébé. Like, I couldn't even like the textures in this game aren't great enough that I was even able to tell what color the Flabébés were most of the time.
Yeah, at one point I was doing a outbreak trying to find a shiny Sinistea.
Oh,
and it's at least it's pink. Once you get up close, you can tell, but it's so small, you got to get up close to tell.
Yeah. Oh man, what if you got a shiny and it was the legit form? Oh, that'd be insane to get that.
Actually, that is. Speaking on shinies, that is one thing that's really lacking from this game is some kind of notification, be it visual or auditory, that there is a shiny.
Yeah, one thing that they did do where is if you can send out your Pokemon for what they call Let's Go mode and they'll like auto battle Pokemon around, they will not auto battle shinies.
Okay, that's good to know.
So if you're doing an outbreak and just want to clear Pokemon the outbreak, because I think the odds of getting a shiny go up slightly after you're like halfway done the outbreak or whatever.
I think once you've cleared 60 Pokemon from the outbreak is your best odds. And then what you do is you just keep loading into a picnic and then back out, and then it despawns everything and then respawns everything with the full odds.
Oh, I just cleared a couple like completely. But yeah, like so you can just have your Pokemon be out and take care of them that way.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot quicker.
I didn't make use of the Let's Go feature too much, except for when using except for when clearing the outbreaks, and if I was farming a resource.
Right.
Which, actually, yeah, we're on the open world. That's another thing. Like in past games, they do a big quality of life improvement by making TMs unlimited use.
Yes.
But they went back on that here, but in a really good way that works for the open world, because every Pokemon, every evolutionary line has a resource item that it drops when you either catch or knock it out, and you use those to craft TMs, which is a great use of just utilizing all the wild Pokemon as a resource for making those TMs.
Yeah, I like that change a fair amount. I think it makes a lot of sense. The one thing that I wish they did was make it so that, like, some of the TMs use some Pokemon that are really difficult to find in the open world. Like, there's one TM, I forget which one it was, but I think it's like a actually fairly useful move that uses Spiritomb fragments. And Spiritomb's so difficult to find in that game. I think it only spawns in like 3 different spots. And not all the time.
I don't think I saw a Spiritomb outside of the Ghost Gym Leader rematch.
Yeah, like I had to look up where it is because actually, like, so because one of the things I really liked about the open world is that there's a lot of Pokemon on screen.
Yes.
Like when I saw like gameplay of Legends Arceus, like the world looked a little sparse to me in terms of the Pokemon. Maybe I just was watching the wrong screenshots or videos or whatever. But in this one, it feels like there's Pokemon everywhere.
They would be localized, but they were also kind of spread out in Arceus. But yeah, like you'd get like whole clusters of a Pokemon spawning.
Right.
And now it doesn't take moving too far away from them for them to despawn. But I think that's why people are seeing so many shinies. Because you're seeing so many Pokemon depopulate and then repopulate.
Yeah, and just like the sheer amount of Pokemon you're seeing in general. Like,
yeah.
You know, there's points in Pokemon games where I'm, using Fly to get everywhere. I'm not running around random encounters. So, like, I've probably seen more Pokemon in this game than every other Pokemon game combined.
Yeah.
Probably by this point, just because of the sheer amount. That's why I found 2 shinies when I have the worst shiny luck. Like, I should have found way more shinies than now in the traditional games.
Yeah, so far I've managed 7, and only one of those was with 6 of those being full odds, one of those being from an outbreak. And technically an 8th if you count the hacked Berserker I got from Surprise Trade.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty funny. Level 100 with a Master Ball
and max IVs.
Yeah, and a name is saying the website that was probably generated from.
Yeah, we're not going to advertise them here.
Absolutely not. Yeah, but like, so having that many Pokemon around was smart. And they spread around so many items on the world.
And they repopulate too.
Like, yeah, there's the little shiny ones on the ground. Those are the ones that repopulate.
Yeah.
But the Pokeballs with a little red thing over them, like those don't repopulate.
I think I've seen some repopulate. Not all, but some, I believe.
Okay. That might make sense, because there are a couple areas that I was like, oh, that's weird that I didn't go through here. I don't remember going through here, but it's weird that I wouldn't have. But that, like, kind of drip feed made me play the game a lot longer than I should have in some sessions.
Yeah.
And maybe go, like, completely off track and stuff, where I was just like, oh, there's an item over there, oh, there's an item over there, oh, there's an item over there, oh, there's a Pokemon I haven't seen before. And just, like, keep going, like, constant stuff. Like, instead of, just constant, like, quests and, like, icons in the... Well, I guess these are icons in the world, but like it's a bit different than some other open world games in terms of little just like drip feed mechanics, kind of stuff like that.
Yeah, they I think they definitely got a good formula down for an open world Pokemon game. Just may play around a little bit more with the being able to tackle things in any order. Yeah,
like a little bit more thought going into the like core structure of the game would be nice. Seeing all these Pokemon, like and seeing them in the open world, made me want to catch Pokemon way more than usual.
Yeah. Like, before you even get to the school you're supposed to go to, which you spend a little bit of time there before you're able to actually go out into the open world. But even before you get to that school, there's a good variety of Pokemon you can catch.
I caught 29 different species before I entered the school, which is insane.
Yeah.
Like, think about, like the first 3 routes of a game. You're lucky if you get 10 unique varieties between that.
Yeah, because, I mean, you think back to, like, say... Well, Gen 1, like, your first route, you've got Pidgeys and Rattatas.
Yeah. And then, like, you go into, like, that route, plus Viridian Forest, plus the little, like, area off to the side where you can fight Gary. I call him Gary, I don't call him Blue.
Gary motherfucking Oak.
That's right. Like, that's, like, maybe 10 species.
Yeah.
And all that.
Fewer if you... detract if you don't count the evolution lines.
Yeah. But yeah, there's so many Pokemon, and I just wanted to catch them all because you can see them. And so I've completely filled the Pokedex except for version exclusives and the set of legendaries.
Oh wow! Okay.
So I actually I got to the point where I was collecting so much. Like, this was the one time any Pokemon game has made me want to catch them all. So, like, I actually do want to fill up my Pokedex because I'm stupid close at this point. So, might as well, right?
Get that shiny charm.
Damn right.
Make them even more common.
Yeah.
Actually, another thing on the open world is there's too many trainers to fight.
You thought so?
For mostly using I mostly had a static team that was what I wanted to roll with. But I did switch up a lot because I have my living deck, so I was training and evolving all the new Pokemon at every chance I could get. There's still a lot of trainers I haven't fought because I didn't want to overlevel.
Well, yeah, okay, in that respect. Yeah, I would have liked maybe a smaller number of trainers. Something that just bothers me with the Pokemon games is the random trainers only ever having 1 to 3 Pokemon, usually one.
Yeah.
Like, I remember in
fewer trainers, more Pokemon.
I remember in Ruby Sapphire there was there was this one route with like 2 different Pokemon breeders that had either 5 or 6 Pokemon each, and they could be registered in your phone to refight them. So like that's how I would grind in that game, was fighting those 2 Pokemon breeders.
I think if it had fewer trainers with more Pokemon each, I think that would be good. But that's also another thing. There's now battle consent.
Yeah, like
they don't come up to you.
You have to go.
You have to go and talk to them.
Yeah, and talk to them. Like, hey, you know what? Okay, they put Magikarp in this game. Where's the 6th Magikarp trainer? What the hell? Come on, that's a staple.
You gotta have it. You gotta.
Yeah. Okay, I want to talk about the Terra raids a little bit.
Okay.
I think they're better than the Dynamax raids.
Yeah. I do have a few issues with them.
Oh, I have some issues with them still.
But they are, overall, I would say, better.
Yeah. I think that the more difficult ones take too long.
Yeah. And your time on the clock can act, because you're on a timer.
Yeah.
Your time on the clock can be really wasted by just sitting there watching stat changes.
Yeah, just like effects happening. Like, one of the Pokemon I used a ton was the double olive Pokemon. And then when it gets to Arboliva, I think is the full evolution, it gets an ability where when it gets hit, it drops grassy terrain. And grassy terrain heals each Pokemon that's on the ground every end step. And so that just took too much time.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm fighting against a water Pokemon. This is my grass Pokemon to kind of take care of this race. Like, this is taking way too long.
Like, I was last night trying a 5-star Cloyster one.
Yeah.
Eventually I went online and just recruited some random actual humans to help, and then it was no problem. But trying it alone again with some NPCs a couple times, I was getting pretty frustrated because it kept getting right down to the wire, and then it would use Shell Smash.
Then you're fucked.
So I had to just sit there, watch the time run out as all its stats are changing.
Yeah, it's so annoying. And like some of the mechanics with it just don't make any sense. Like, if any Pokemon knows counter, you can't send a physical attacker in there, because the amount of damage your Pokemon does is a lot, and the Terra Pokemon, their HP is a ton, And so everything that works off percentage of HP doesn't change. It makes Drain Punch overpowered, which is very nice. Like any kind of drain move, it's just like...
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people using the...
I'm using my Annihilate, mostly.
I've also seen a lot of people using the Violet exclusive Paradox Pokemon that's supposed to be based on Makuhita.
Yeah.
Using Belly Drum and Drain Punch.
Yeah, I've been using my Belly Punch as Azumarill with a Shell Bell. And that just like heals him up completely anyways, and that only heals like what, an eighth of the damage you do, maybe even less.
Yeah,
which opposed to Drain Punch I think and stuff like, that does 50%.
It might be a tenth.
Yeah. But that is still that like I belly drum and just like smack him with a liquidation or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm fully healed now. Nice. It's like as long as I can take like a hit or two, I'll be fine.
I feel like I need to train up in a Azumarill for these battles.
So, it can make short work of certain types for sure, but sometimes
which is another thing.
They'll just get knocked out.
I was trying to do a poison Gyarados one last night.
Yeah, and
everyone I kept matching up with just kept trying to do those like OP strats, and it's just like we kept failing because it's like I was the only one actually using like Psychic or...
just like normally hitting your weakness.
Yeah.
Like if you're going online and everybody's like actually contributing smartly, then like, there shouldn't be a problem. It's only if you're doing it solo that you have to resort to like trying to just like get as many stat boosts as you can and hit them really fucking hard before they revert your stat boosts.
Yeah.
But yeah, the one that gave me the most trouble that I just like gave up on because I'm like, I don't even care, there was a 5-star Greedent that I just couldn't beat.
Oh, yeah, Greedent... I never noticed in Sword and Shield. It wasn't until playing Scarlet and Violet, I didn't realize how tanky Greedent is.
Yeah, like, the thing that made me notice it was Pokemon Unite is, like, damn near unkillable in that game. But, like, it would just, like, use Stockpile, eventually, because, like, when you get them down a certain percentage, like, they will, like, steal your Terra Charge or reverse negative effects or whatever. But they'll also just sometimes just use a move that's outside of their normal moves that they can use in a fight. So it would use Stockpile, so it's like, okay, it gets a defense boost. Yeah,
like that Cloyster I was fighting, it never used Shell Smash until it was low. Until, like, you broke it through its barrier.
Yeah. And so it was a normal type Green too, so I can only, like, okay, my only chance of beating this is to use super effective fighting moves. There's, like, no super effective... There's no really good special attack ones except for Aura Sphere. None of my Pokemon that I had at the time could learn it. So I'm like, okay, I gotta go with my Annihilate. And this was before I thought about using Drain Punch, and I just couldn't beat the thing. It was so tanky, and by the time I got to the Terra part, I would Terrasilize, and my Annihilate Terrasilize into fighting, not Ghost. So it would just get demolished by like a Body Slam or a Body Press or whatever. It's like, damn it. So that's the one that just like was a problem. But like the 6-star ones I've encountered, I haven't had a problem with any of them. I've been lucky in that they're types that I've been able to super effective.
Yeah, I'm actually still just in the process of unlocking those 6 and 7 stars. I just need to do a couple more 5 stars. I think.
Okay, so the weird thing is, I read online that it was like, yeah, you do 5-star raids. I unlocked it after doing a 4-star raid. So I don't know what counts and what doesn't.
Okay, yeah.
And I was also worried that the special Eevee ones that are going on right now might not have counted. I don't know.
I think I think the Eevees are done now. I think it's been a Mimikyu this weekend.
Oh, okay. That was a nice time. I got a bunch of Eevees that way. Not even intentionally. I was just trying to unlock the freaking 6-star raids. So one thing that I really liked about the open world is, okay, so the open world is kind of like a two-sided coin or whatever, like duality. I don't exactly know how to say it, but parts that I did like, I liked a lot of the architecture in the cities. I thought that had a really like interesting look to it, like a lot of like mosaic tiles and stuff like that. I really liked how it looked.
I loved the mosaic tiles on the little tower where you fight the psychic gym.
Oh yeah, I took screenshots of that map.
Because they just so cool. They were mosaic tiles of the Gen 1 in-menu sprites.
Yeah, it's like, that was so...
The ones that didn't resemble
awesome.
any Pokemon.
Yeah.
but just the generic sprites they use. It was great to see.
There's the one that clearly is a Kildare.
Yeah,
and the Kangaskhan
Kangaskhan.
Yeah. But like those were awesome, and like there were some like pictures on the wall in the auction house that were just like a bunch of different water Pokemon done in this cool mosaic style. So I really liked how like a lot of the cities looked, and like there's the one like city that's like a bit bigger, more like industrial, and it just has like ads everywhere.
Yeah.
And the Pokemon ads are hilarious to me. That they're like ads for like product and they have a Pokemon next to it. It's
yep.
Like, okay, so you're like, all right, you got this like these sandals and a Wingull. It's like, oh, maybe like you're like walking on air on these comfy sandals or whatever. But then you got like the Quillfish tires. Like, what are you trying to say here? The worst one is the worst two are the Ice Cube popsicle advertisement. What are you trying to say here about these popsicles that you're showing on Penguin with an ice cube as a head advertising? Like, oh, what are these made of? And also the second evolution of the water starter, Quaxwell, is just advertising a credit card.
I didn't notice that one.
Like, yeah, they got one for each of the starters, and it's just like, oh, Weed Cats. I think it's just like a sandwich or something, and then like the second evolution of Fuecoco, whose name I forget, is advertising cereal, which is awesome, like Fruity Pebbles kind of stuff. But yeah, Quaxwell is just like there's like a credit card and a phone. I'm like, what's going on here?
I did notice another ad that just seems to have like a trainer silhouette on and resembles Gary, I want to say.
Oh, that'd be a fun little thing.
Yeah,
I didn't really I saw that one. I didn't really pay attention to what the silhouette could have been. But that's
of course in that town you've also got, because that's the gym with that's the town with the electric gym and your streamer gym leader. You've got the
worst
ads
character in the game.
Oh, I love her.
No, absolutely not.
She's not my favorite, but I do like her.
I would have been happier if it was just like a streamer that wasn't so like that's it was kind of perfect. It represents like the kind of streamer that I think a lot of streamers are, because they're nonstop talking about like how much engagement and view counts they're going to get by having you on their stream. It's not just like, oh yeah, I stream because it's fun or whatever. It's like, oh come on, shut up about this. I'm not here to boost your clout. Okay, I'm here to get a gym badge and find the director of the school hiding about in a Where's Waldo situation. Which he was one of my favorite characters.
Yeah,
I actually really liked Director Clavel.
I actually really like the characters in this game.
Yeah, a lot of them are pretty good.
Yeah,
a bit more memorable than previous ones.
Yeah,
we both have the same favorite character too.
Normal Jim.
Larry.
Fucking Larry.
Oh my god, he's the best. He's a badass.
Just your run-of-the-mill Japanese businessman.
Yeah, just a proper salaryman.
Salaryman, yeah.
And like
the gym, it's just his job.
And I actually got like weirded out a little bit because when you go to fight the Elite Four, there's this little like quiz in front where like they ask you some just like basic questions. I don't know what happens if you fail, but one of the questions they asked you was like, oh, like for the gym leaders, who's your favorite gym leader? And I said Larry, obviously. And then Larry shows up as the third member of the Elite Four.
Yep. He's holding down 2 jobs.
Yeah, he's a proper worker here. But like I thought like, oh, is this based on like because I said Larry, it was Larry? No. That's just how it was. But like that was like so weird.
He's just holding down 2 jobs, and he's not using normal type Pokemon. Yeah, he has a completely different team.
Yeah, it's like the Pokemon League said I got to use a different team, so I'm just using the flying type in here. And everybody kind of like shits on him a little bit because he's just like this. He comes off as like this very meek kind of guy. But then his little speech when you go to rematch him about like how the like normal type fits him, like I recorded the entire fucking thing because I was like, oh, this is actually a really good speech. Like this guy's awesome.
Yeah, Larry's the greatest.
And it's a perfect name too. It's just fucking Larry.
He's just Larry of the normal gym.
Yeah. So good.
Which actually, that's another thing. The champion was really disappointing.
Oh, really? I liked her. I didn't like her team, but I liked her.
Yeah, no, I like her, but it's the team that bugs me. I think it could have been the same team.
There's no reason for her to have a go-go. That's
okay, yeah.
That's like 4th gym tier right there.
Her last Pokemon should have been her first. Considering its ability sets up Toxic Spikes and it can also know Stone Edge, it should have been the first, and King Gambit should have been the last.
Yeah. So, well, okay. I'm of two minds about this. Yes, I think that for a more competitive, more challenging fight, that is true. But I like Glimora being last because of the champion's hairstyle. Where it kind of makes sense, actually. Like, I was thinking, like, what's the champion's final Pokemon gonna be? And then, the fourth guy used the pseudo-legend dragon type, so like, okay, it's not gonna be that. So what's it going to be? I was thinking. And I had a Glimora on my team, as I was using as my leadoff. So I sent out mine. I'm like, you know what? I bet she has a Glimora on her team. And sure enough, it was the last Pokemon. So I'm like, oh, that's nice. I was able to predict that.
There is one thing that bugs me about her look, though. She looks exactly like a Danganronpa character.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's like, I can't look at her without thinking about the character. It's like, wow.
All right.
Just like, it's because of the hair.
Okay,
It's the hair.
I want to know what conditioner she uses to get that volume. Holy crap! Like that's not naturally attainable. I didn't really like the school setting because I hate Battle Academy. That's just like a setting in general.
Yeah,
but I mean, you don't actually have to spend all that much time there.
Yeah,
so it didn't really bother me that much.
The school setting actually did one other thing I didn't really like, in that you're forced to wear one of the 4 seasonal uniforms.
Yes, I fucking hated that. I was so pissed. I couldn't. Like I got to a point where I liked how my character looked, but
I'm satisfied with how my character looks, but
they've been pushing so much in the last few games about
for
the
customization,
and be able to like really customize your character to be who you want it to be, and to see them just like completely go back on that is kind of weird.
Yeah,
but I guess they didn't have to make as many assets. I guess. So.
Yeah, which
maybe that's good.
Which, speaking of, because clearly a lot of their time went to the open world. You don't have very many interiors in buildings either.
Whatever.
So
I wasn't that bothered by that. Hey, listen, RPGs are dumb. You get to break into everybody's house.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, it's a dumb trope that I don't miss.
You're just walking into shops now, pretty much. And, a lot of them don't even have an interior. You just walk in and then you're just given the menu of what you want to buy.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
One thing that I actually didn't like that much about the environments was I think that they were, outside of the towns, I think they were a bit basic.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see, I'm so used to, open world, not open world, but just like RPGs in general having like some very like striking areas, even in Sword and Shield, like the fairy forest, that looked good, even though it was like, it's 5 feet long. I
think probably one of the... I think you want more of like the Tag Tree Forest area in the game.
Yeah, basically.
But the problem is that area runs like molasses.
Yeah. or just like, not even necessarily that, but like more fantastical stuff. Like, the part that you go into at the very like end of the story, like that's something. But like, I miss like having stuff like Chargestone Cave and just like caves in general. There was like there's like a couple of small little cave areas, and they're not very big.
I miss strength puzzles and ice path puzzles.
Yeah, there was like zero environment puzzles. I think stuff you get was in the gym test, and that's very tiny.
I think the last time we saw a strength or ice path puzzle was X and Y.
I think so too. Yeah, probably. So, yeah, some of like the puzzle aspects are just missing from the game, which I don't know. I like having puzzles in RPGs. But whatever.
One other thing that feels weird to me about these games is, particularly in the cutscenes, it feels weird having no voice acting.
Yeah, it's a bit odd.
Like, sure. I'm fine with like just like your usual everyday like text in the game, like not having any voice acting. But when you have like an actual cutscene, they should probably be voice acted at this point.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if I wanted to hear Arvin voice acted. I'm pining for the days when we don't get your like rival contemporaries just being a bunch of hyperactive kids. He kind of sucked. I didn't really like him.
I liked Arvin. I wasn't sure about him at first, but then once I found out what like he was trying to do with the tie-in side quest, I was like, okay, no. I like you, Arvin. I want to help you with this.
I don't like how he kept calling me his little buddy. All right. Listen, as a tall person that wasn't exactly able to change your height in this game, you're shorter than freaking everybody except for the toddlers, basically.
how are you not able to like select the age of your character in this game? Because there are trainers that are straight up grown-ups in the school uniform.
There are trainers that are balding, and next to trainers that are like 6 years old. Like there was like, I think I took a screenshot of like two people in the art class or whatever that were just sitting next to each other, and it was like a tiny kid and an old grandpa, both in their school uniform. Like, what's going on?
Clearly, the school is for all ages.
Yeah,
but like. Why are we locked in as like a kid character?
Yeah, and I mean, with Arben specifically, like they kind of like the first one you do, they kind of like make it a little, and his introduction, they kind of make he kind of makes him a little unlikable.
Yeah,
because he's like kind of a jerk to the legendary Pokemon. He's kind of a jerk to you and Nemona, or is it Nemona or Nemora? Nemona. Okay. So it's like, whatever. It's like, but then like the story is obviously like he's trying to do a good thing. It's like, okay, fine, whatever. And
I did really like Nemona as well. She's just Goku.
Yes. Oh man, I nicknamed Rufflet. I caught Goku after reading his Pokédex description. Where it just it just constantly wants to fight things stronger than it. It's like, okay, that's Goku.
Yep.
Stayed with nicknaming Pokemon this time though. When I was filling up when I decided, okay, I'm gonna fill up the Pokédex. That was tough. I think there's a few Pokemon that I didn't end up nicknaming because I'm like, I don't want to think of one right now. I'm never going to use this.
I always struggle with coming up with nicknames, so I just, unless I'm doing a Nuzlocke, I just don't. Though I did kind of want to name my, as I was leveling up and evolving it, the new Salt-based Pokemon. I kind of wanted to nickname it Salt Bay.
I named it Himalayan. And I looked up the shiny form of it. I'm disappointed that's not pink rock salt.
Yeah.
It's kind of just brown.
Actually, that's another thing that kind of dropped the ball on this generation is some of the new Pokemon shinies.
Some of the bright.
Charcadet's line, the only difference is the eyes.
Yeah, some of them are just like, okay, have you seen shiny Paldean Tauros?
What difference?
Yeah,
there's like no difference.
It's just like the head, instead of being like 80% on the darkness slider, it's 100%. It's just like, instead of extremely dark gray, it went one notch to the side on the Photoshop palette. And it's just like, I was doing an outbreak of those because I'm like, okay, I need something that EV trains attack because I want EV trains to Pokemon. And it's like, oh man, this is like, I have to pay attention here if I want to find a shiny for when I battle one to have the shiny sparks go out of it. It's like,
and like shiny Tinkaton, the only difference is its hammer.
Yeah,
it's just like it's more of a rust like color.
Yeah, at least that's noticeable. But again, I don't even think he's find a Tinkaton in the wild. I think it's just the pre-evolutions.
Yeah, just Tinkatuff and Tinkatink and Tinkatuff.
Yeah, yeah. So like it is a bit. I'm of two minds of this because on the one hand, a lot of these shiny forms, like I wouldn't be able to recognize them, especially running across this area. Like I was lucky that I noticed that shiny Mankey. But on the other hand, in a traditional Pokemon game with just random encounters in the grass, I'm not going to know shinies until I find Pokemon.
Until you find it, yeah.
So I'm way more likely to find shinies this time around, but it still like kind of feels like I'm less, just because it's so difficult to see the differences some of the time.
Yeah, it's just so weird that after, the previous two games that did have overworld shinies, being Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, where they were at least surrounded by like a sparkling aura, and then Legends Arceus, where you get an auditory cue and a visual like animation that plays out on them when they spawn in. It's just like having nothing to indicate shiny other than actually noticing it.
Yeah, it's for something as like shinies are one of those like little game mechanics that it doesn't need to be there, but I'm glad it is. Like and how rare they have been, a little less rare now, but how rare they have been, like finding a shiny was such a big deal in those older games. So like the freaking FOMO on this one is rough.
Yeah, especially if for all you know, you've seen one, but you didn't know because it was just one of those ever so slightly off-colored ones.
Yeah, there's a little counter in your trainer card that says shiny Pokemon battled.
I'm thankful it says battled and not seen.
Yeah, and like I was actually a little bit worried there because I hadn't caught the shiny Mega. I'd only caught shiny Tarantula, and I evolved it, but my thing shiny Pokemon Battle said 2. So I'm like, oh, did I like battle a Pokemon completely missed the fact that it was shiny? But and then I thought about it, and now it's probably because I evolved my Tarantula. I haven't checked it now if it's at 5 as it should be. That's like okay, fine. But if it's anything more than that, I'll be like, uh-oh.
Yeah, definitely need more time in the oven, but overall, really enjoyable.
Yeah, I think it's my favorite since Black and White for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite since they've switched to 3D.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure.
And honestly, I'm a little disappointed. I'm a little bummed now, actually, that I'm done with it. Pretty much, like I've done everything I can. So it's like, oh yeah, man, I really liked exploring that world, and it like it did exactly the opposite of Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield felt like you weren't exploring anything. It felt like I was exploring a world the entire time.
The routes were
seeing a bunch of new stuff.
Very linear in Sword and Shield.
Very small.
Yeah, it just not what you would have hoped for the first console mainline Pokemon game.
Yeah.
Scarlet and Violet, definitely a step in that right direction.
Yeah, so I hope that, the jump between those was pretty significant. Like you said at the very beginning, this is an extremely ambitious game. I totally agree. So if they're able to really land the next one, that could be something that even rivals the my favorite Pokemon games if they can really tune the formula and tune the performance.
Yeah, I'm hoping that so with the patch that came out recently, I don't think this has ever been on any patch notes on a Nintendo, an official Nintendo thing, but there was actually an apology.
Really?
On the patch notes. I can't.
Jeez, that's some straight up EA shit.
Here, hold on a second. Let's see if I can just find it.
Yeah. Okay, that's Western Game Studio right there, where it's just release a game and then a week later release an apology for the game. It's well, you shouldn't have released the game if you have to apologize for it later.
Yeah.
And do a bunch of make goods. You did say that people were actually able to get refunds for it too.
Oh yeah, some people were also.
Did they? I'm guessing they lost access to the game though when they did that.
I would assume
so. Because I was tempted to, even though I really liked the game, just because I wanted to not give Nintendo money.
Yeah, I actually, because I went physical. As I said, my brother and I split the double pack.
Yeah.
So that way we have both copies in the house, so we can trade at some point, play the other one. But when I was in GameStop buying it. The staff were saying that they were hearing from a lot of the Eastern GameStops that a lot of people were returning it. They were getting a lot of returns.
That's so crazy. That's so, again, I know it's it's a pseudo Nintendo release at this point, second party studio, pretty much. But for a Nintendo game, flagship title to be so unpolished I know we both didn't find it that bad. We downplayed it at the beginning, but it is insane. That's
okay, yeah. So I found the quote from the patch notes. We are aware that players may encounter issues that affect the game's performance. Our goal is always to give players a positive experience with our games, and we apologize for the inconvenience. We take the feedback from players seriously and are working on improvements to the games.
We'll see.
I'm hoping, because I feel like Nintendo kind of just, they're part owner. I feel like they kind of just let Game Freak and the Pokemon Company do their own thing mostly. I'm hoping Nintendo will kind of step in and get one of their other studios to maybe assist on the next titles.
Yeah, maybe, because
get from Monolith Soft.
Yeah, if I heard this take, and I think it's a reasonable one. If Game Freak, this company that's been making these, you can think of them as large RPGs, but they're a lot of RPGs on a portable system. They don't know anything about camera movement or and a lot of the features that an open world game has. So they definitely should have gotten some outside assistance for that, because one of the things I didn't bring up is that the camera clipping in this game is abysmal.
Oh yeah,
like
Yep.
it's something that like I haven't seen the camera clipping this bad since like PS2 era kind of stuff here, where you just lower the camera a bit too low and you're seeing through the ground no longer exists.
Yeah, and there's a lot of situations where like I'm on a bit of a slope and like either an egg I have starts to hatch or a Pokemon starts to evolve and just I'm half looking through the floor as they're hatching or evolving.
Yeah. I was in a couple areas where they cut to the
just a
multicolor
generic
background,
screen. Yeah, probably just having trouble finding a place to put them down for the evolution or whatever.
So it's crazy to me that it released in the state it's in, but at this point, like so many games are releasing with performance issues that just make me unhappy.
Yeah,
I'm just sad.
And I've got to wonder, because I don't know about Scarlet and Violet, but I'm pretty sure Arceus and Sword and Shield were still running on a modified version of the engine they were using on 3DS.
Really?
Yes.
Oh boy.
So I don't know if that's the case with Scarlet and Violet as well. But I wouldn't be surprised.
I can't imagine like how that would even work well, because like the kind of architecture that the 3DS has versus the kind of architecture that the Switch has, like, is how portable would that even be? And that's the kind of thing that if that is what happened, that wouldn't surprise me just how horribly this is, because it's something that's not built natively for the hardware, right?
And with the time they have, the limited time they have to develop, I don't think they have time to learn a new engine or make a new engine.
Yeah, potentially. For some parts of the company, like a lot of the development time, it feels like, for the Pokemon games is the Pokemon themselves. Like all of the Pokemon actually had like a fair amount of animations.
Yeah,
like in Picnic or them like running around. Like Satotal has like three or four different like idle things that'll just do when it like runs up to you. So it's like great.
I love Tinkaton's sleeping animation.
Oh yeah,
just throws down her hammer and then just lies on top of it.
Nice. So like there's a lot of animations, and they insist on texturing a lot of these. So like that's a lot of work, but I mean, I guess you kind of want to know like how. At some part of it wants to know like how your render pipeline might work for that kind of stuff, but still, like, switch to a new engine. That's not something that a lot of the artists necessarily have to worry about too much. So
yeah,
and well, hey, you know what? They should pull ideas from a bunch of games that where when you launch them up, you see just like 7 different logos of third-party middleware tools that they use to make their game. Maybe they should have done a little bit of that, because like I didn't pay attention at all during the credits. Once I hit credits, I went to the washroom. I didn't want to hear Ed Sheeran.
I like the song. I like it. I like a couple of his songs. I like the one they use for the credits. It's weird. It's weird that there's an Ed Sheeran song in the credits, but
yeah, like there's like one song that I like of his that just sounds like he ripped off U2. And this one, like, I'm like, okay, I didn't hate it by any means, but it's like, okay, this is pop music. I don't really care. So I didn't watch the credits. I don't know if they had like a lot of support studios or third-party stuff listed there. But when I booted up a game that I'll probably talk about in a later podcast, I booted up Darktide, or 4K Darktide. There's literally a screen with like, I think it's 14 different logos.
Oh wow!
Of either technologies that they've used or logos are like the Games Workshop stuff and like the specific 40K logo and whatever like that. But yeah, like a lot of Square Enix has done this thing in some of their games where they'll have a like licenses option on the main menu where you can go and read the license agreements for all the third-party stuff they use. So it was interesting to see like, okay, this is the library they use for generating random numbers. When I boot up like Final Fantasy 15, and it's like, oh, that's interesting to see.
Yeah, I'd like to see a licenses page like that in Smash Ultimate.
Yeah. Maybe, but like you don't see that a lot with a lot of Nintendo stuff, so that makes me think that perhaps a lot of the stuff they do is just like completely in-house work.
Yeah.
Because like there's one like Speed Tree, for example. Speed Tree is a very popular middleware thing for generating trees, because like no artist is going to want to go in and design a bunch of trees that are distinct enough that they're not just copy pasted everywhere, or like brush and bushes, unless you're Final Fantasy 15, where that's just all copy pasted everywhere. So like, did they use just like middleware tools that can do the job easily for stuff like their grass generation or their like tree and stuff generation, or did they just do their own thing? Like, I don't actually know, but that's another thing that could contribute to them just not having enough time if they decide to use everything in-house versus other tools. That's something that I should probably look into, because that'd be interesting to find out. Because I doubt, like in my heart, I doubt that they actually do use a lot of middleware.
Yeah.
But that's speculation.
Actually, I just thought of one more thing that I have a problem with.
Yeah.
So this was actually something that they introduced in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which I didn't play.
Neither did I.
And I was kind of disappointed to see it in Scarlet and Violet as well. Because you might remember back on those 3DS games, you had like little mini games that you could use for raising. Because you had like the affection and the friendship stat.
Sure.
So those are basically combined together now.
Yes.
And what I don't like about that is that means if your friendship stat gets high enough with your Pokemon on your team, they'll start holding on at 1 HP because they didn't want to make you sad. They'll land critical hits.
Yes. So, okay.
Or they'll avoid a move.
Yeah, so that's kind of bullshit. I didn't really like that. But looking into it for Sword and Shield, at least, your Pokemon, there was a max happiness that they could get to without specific happiness raising items. Okay. And it was just before all those effects started happening. And that they also reduced the happiness required to evolve. Okay. I don't know if they kept that all along with this one.
Maybe the barrier was the picnics.
Perhaps, like doing picnics.
Because I did do some picnics.
Or if you used any of the berries that improve happiness but lower EVs to try and like get your EVs in check, that would do it.
What I did end up doing before I went and did the gym rematches, though, because like some of my Pokemon at that point were holding on at 1 HP and whatnot, I purposefully fainted them.
Oh, yeah.
And then I would, because just fainting brings down the friendship.
Not very much, but yeah, it does.
And then I would revive them, but not to full. I would use just a regular revive. And then I would use some of the like the medicinal medicines, like your the bitter medicines, to just bring them back down before I did the rematches, just so they're not doing that.
Yeah, like it's whatever. I want to be on. I want to win because of my knowledge of, not because I have game mechanics that they don't.
Yeah.
In fact, they can terastallize all they want. I won't. I did terastallize a couple times.
Same.
In the like proper story, which I kind of regret. But a couple of them I just wanted to try out, like these terrestrial like off type strategies I want to use. But I stood my ground. I never Dynamaxed in a Pokemon Sword and Shield battle outside of the raids, where again is kind of required.
Yeah, you need it to break down those barriers.
Oh, one thing that I was really shocked that they got rid of is you can't set, as far as I can tell, battle type to be set anymore. It's always shift.
Yeah, right? No, you cannot. It's weird. And you also can't turn off battle animations.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the first game that they did that, but I really wish you could, because I don't want to see the terrestrial animation anymore.
You could.
It's annoying.
You could still turn off battle animations in Sword and Shield, and you could have switch and set. Right. So, yeah, this is where they dropped them for some reason.
Yeah, that's stupid. They shouldn't have gotten rid of those.
And honestly, with the open world, like, because of how, as I was saying before, with how many trainers I didn't end up fighting because I didn't want to overlevel, like, this would have been the perfect opportunity to just add back the toggle for experience share.
Yeah, they're never going to do that.
No, but, sadly.
Whatever. Also, I do have a level 100 Pokemon. I think it's the first time I've ever got a Pokemon to level 100. I just chucked a bunch of experience candies to my Azumarill because I'm just like, I just want to deal with these stupid terror rates. It was like, F it.
Yeah. One thing I did hear...
I don't want Connect Online.
Yeah, no, the experience share is a problem for me. Like, I wish you could just toggle it off. Like,
we talked about that when we talked about Pokemon Shield.
But apparently a game that actually has I haven't played it, but I heard recently a game that actually has a good experience share implemented into it now is the new release of Tactics Ogre.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, that's weird because Tactics Ogre, I don't know if this was the case for the very, very original, but the PSP remake, they did a weird thing with the experience where you leveled up classes instead of the actual units. So that when you switched units to different classes, which was more difficult than it really had any right to be in that game, they would be at the level that the new class was. And also if you had multiple characters of that class and you leveled up the class, it would level up both characters basically. And that was a game where level mattered a ton. So it was a weird system. So it's kind of interesting that they have some sort of good replacement for that. It was kind of cool, but I don't think it worked as well as it probably should have.
If I recall correctly, I think it's either there's a cap to how high they can be at any point with the experience share, or there's like a mission level cap that'll scale you back down or something like that. So that way none of your units are getting left behind, but they're all still usable depending on what mission, like for any mission.
Yeah, that could be kind of cool. And kind of enforce okay, if it is like a cap, like mission specific, then okay, you kind of have to have better tactics, have a better strategy. You bring different units to beat this. If you're having trouble, you can't just grind your way out of it, which is, that's good, I suppose. I had a point. I just completely lost it. Yeah, something like Triangle Strategy did that where the experience scaling, and Pokemon does this too now, where lower level Pokemon will gain more experience than higher level Pokemon.
Yeah.
But Triangle Strategy, it had it really, really skewed where if you were a couple levels below, you would gain experience incredibly fast. But if you were one level above where they kind of wanted you to be, it would slow to a near crawl. You'd have to get kill 8 enemy units to gain a level, whereas if you're the same level, then you only have to kill maybe 3.
So there's really no grinding to overlevel, or at least it makes it really hard.
There are repeatable missions, but if you get to the point where maybe you only get 1 experience for doing any action, do you want to do an action 100 times to level up your character just to make it a little bit more powerful? No, you don't. So, and level was decently important in that game, but it wasn't as important as something like Tactics Ogre or Pokemon. Level in Pokemon matters a ton.
Yeah.
For the stick. It actually matters a lot more than you'd think because the damage calculation, it doesn't take into consideration only your attack stats, it also takes your level.
Yep.
So that's something I didn't know for a while, but makes a lot more sense when you think about it. Of why, when you're starting out, some jabroni using tackle takes off 3 of your 20 HP or whatever.
Yeah.
It's okay, now you know that makes sense. All right, so I think that's about it. I think we've exhaustively covered this game.
Yes. Overall, they're fun games, but a little jank.
Yeah, it's not my most disappointing game of the year because I did enjoy it a ton. But yeah, if it just was firing on all cylinders, this could have been a really big resurgence for the Pokemon games. That it's Sword and Shield was already kind of not a tepid response. Not tepid.
I guess we gotta wait to Gen 10 to see if anything changes, but
3 more years.
Here's the thing. Unfortunately, why would they change? Scarlet and Violet, fastest selling Pokemon games of all time.
Yeah, well, okay. I mean, will they ever adjust that for turns? No, there's not a chance they'll ever adjust that stat based on returns. So,
no.
Who knows?
Yeah. It'd be interesting to know just how many returns were actually done.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. But again, that's numbers that are. I don't know if GameStop would ever publish those numbers, and if they're offering digital refunds, they'll never release those numbers. It's difficult enough to get Nintendo sales numbers in general.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you still had to jump through some hoops to get an eShop refund.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, it's the years of digital refunds. First Cyberpunk, now this.
I actually just bought Cyberpunk.
Cool.
But it's 2 years. It's been 2 years since it came out, so hopefully it's been fixed up some.
It's been 2 years and you have a decently beefy computer.
Yeah. And I pretty much just bought because I'm planning on watching Cyberpunk Edge Runner soon, and I'm expecting to I kind of want to go into this world.
Yeah, I've heard that the show has some very knowing references to some.
Yeah,
it's actually some of the things that are wrong with video game, which is kind of funny. That they're a little self-deprecating.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool. That's a good tone.
And I think they even in the update that came out alongside it added one of the characters' apartments into the game, so you can actually go to their apartment.
Right, has to be an apartment, can't be a house. It's Cyberpunk. Yep. Nobody owns houses.
No one.
Yep. It's fucking Cyberpunk 2022 right now. I'm in an apartment. I'll never own a house around here. All right, so let's before we get too real, let's end the podcast, all right? All right, if you want to get in touch with us, if you got interesting things about your experiences with these Pokemon games, give us a shout at 3levelsdeep@outlook.com. I haven't deleted the Twitter yet, so you can DM us there.
Maybe send us some clips or screenshots of some bugs that happen to you.
Yeah, or if you got any thoughts about if you have maybe you have a Pokemon that we didn't mention here that's your favorite. I'd like to hear what people think, why people think certain Pokemon are their favorites and stuff like that. It's always interesting to me. It's kind of a personality, what it reveals about your personality or whatever.
And tell us why Larry's your favorite.
Absolutely. And of course, if you're watching the YouTube version, there's comments are open. So check that, box. That, well, you don't actually check a box when you submit a comment. Click a button. Click the subscribe. Yeah,
while you're at me, click that little bell too.
Don't click the bell. I'm so against notifications.
Yeah,
for stuff like that.
I'll check my subscriptions when I check them.
Exactly. I don't need to know exactly when something that's not a stream is going, and I don't even really need to know when a stream is going because I don't really like watching streams live all that much. But that's a me thing. But if you would like to watch streams, go to our Twitch page. Yeah, I'm one of those hypocritical people that's just oh yeah, I'll stream. I don't want to watch other people stream. But whatever. Yeah, I've been taking a hiatus from streaming, which will probably extend throughout the holidays, honestly. So I don't know when I'll go back to doing that, but keep an eye out. If you ring bells or whatever there, then you'll get notified. Perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all, and have yourself a colorful holiday.
And don't drink too many eggnogs and clip through the floor.